Hey Barbecue League members, this is Richard Fergola here from Fergalicious Barbecue and Richard Fergola Barbecue Products, and I am going to do a competition brisket trim for you today for the Barbecue League. It's going to be awesome. We're going to get started on this KCBS brisket competition trim. Just so you know, Fergalicious, we cook the Snake River Farms Gold brisket, and we always cook 20 pound plus and higher. If we can get our hands on a 22 pound plus, we do. The one we're trimming today is a little bit smaller just for the sake of the video. This is a 16 to 18 gold. For those that don't know, that Snake River Farms has two grades. They have the black and the gold, both Wagyu, both great marbling. The gold is a higher marbled product. So today we're trimming a gold brisket. The first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna start on the bottom, and typically right along here there is a what we call a mohawk or a flap right there. We cut it off. This one's already cut off, so we don't really have to worry about that, and that's not a normal thing, but you can see right here where it's been cut out. So we're gonna go ahead and flip this guy over and get to the top side and start to concentrate on this piece right here. So we're just gonna take our 6-inch curved boning knife, and sometimes I'll kind of start to run my fingers through that part right there. And then I'm gonna take my knife and I'm gonna dig in just a little bit, and then once I get it around here like this, then I'm just gonna pull that towards the end, just like that, and then trim out the inside here until we get that hard fat that we don't need, and we're not gonna render that out. So once we get that kind of dug out, now there's two muscles obviously here. We've got our flat and we've got our point under here. And right here is a seam. This is that fat seam. And what I'll do is I'll come right underneath that and kind of trim some of that surface fat off just so I can see it a little better. And I will say this trim method, there's all kinds of different ways to do it. This is just the way I like to do it. This is the way I've been trimming briskets for a long time. And I like this method. Obviously it's not this way or the highway, but I like how this works. So what I'm doing is I'm just digging some of this fat out, and then there's a bigger cut right over here on this side that I'm just gonna kind of trim some of that out. Now we're gonna follow this line, comes right along the bottom of that flat, and we're gonna keep our knife kind of flat, and we're just gonna kind of follow the bottom of that flat right there. So I'm gonna rotate this around, and then I'm peeling this back as I'm pressing my knife through. And it's very important to know that I'm not gouging my knife down. I'm coming across this way until I get about midway through. And once we get on the point, I don't cook the points anymore in competition. I stopped cooking the points a couple years ago. I have certain reasons why. I think sometimes they're too rich, and maybe it's hard for the judges to decipher that. So I just leave them out. Once we get our point done, we're gonna turn our attention back to the flat. We're gonna turn this guy over. We're gonna break out our brisket knife, and then I'm gonna go across this flat. You can see all this fat here, keeping my knife flat, and you can still see some of the point meat. And I'm gonna go diagonal across this, keeping my knife flat, right into all that thick fat. And what I'm doing here, that's all fat, and I'm flattening this up. Basically what I'm doing is I'm getting it even, because there's a lot of thick, and right there we're just kind of evening this thing up, because we're gonna flip it over, and you can see all the good marbling here. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna make sure this guy's all spread out, and this is an important piece of trimming a brisket. You gotta look at the grain, okay? You gotta see the grain going this way, and we want to make sure we're lined up with that, and this is right about where our brisket flat's gonna be, is right about here. So once I see that, then I'll go ahead and score that one side, and then I'll run my fingers through it, and then take that chunk out. So we got our one side cut here. Now we're gonna even this up. We're gonna come down this side, make our incision there. All right, now once we've got the width done, now we're gonna lay this guy out here, and you'll see these angles right here. So I usually like to come to this point right here and go back behind it just a little bit. Trim right there. And then I usually like to go on this front one here, or you can go right here, but I like to go in front of that just a little bit. All right, so now we're at our box width, so now we're gonna turn it back over again on the other side, and we're gonna even out our trim on the bottom. We're trying to get down to about Some people take this all the way off. I like to keep some fat on. I cut it off at the end, but I like to keep it on to help protect it a little bit, add some flavor, but mostly to protect it. So all I'm doing right now is just evening up this bottom side fat, getting it down to the minimum of what I need for what I need to do. So we got the fat evened up on the bottom side of the brisket, so now we're gonna turn our attention to the top. So we've got all this different silver skin here, and then now I'm gonna use my hand and I'm just gonna I'm pushing, and then once I can, I'm gonna come right underneath that and peel that up, and that'll kind of reveal some more of that, marbling and get that silver skin off. And you wanna be very delicate with this because you don't wanna go crazy on top. You don't wanna create any divots or anything. Now we're gonna turn it around here and we're gonna hit this other side. Just cleaning the top side of this up. The reason why I like to use my brisket knife is because it's a thin blade. It's longer, so I can get all the way across the flat and get a nice clean cut all the way through. I've got this edge right here that I got to get cut off, so I like to just come right through there and ditch all that fat. Right. Doing our final cuts here, we're gonna come in and we're gonna dock all the corners. Our last step, we're gonna come in with our scissors and we're gonna clean these edges up. So really all I'm doing is I'm taking these scissors and I'm rounding the edge, because otherwise you're gonna have, it's gonna fray really easy. Okay, so we're just gonna keep following here. All right, so we're gonna keep scissoring all the way around this brisket, making it nice and rounded edges. This will cook evenly. It'll give it a nice look at the end. And there you have a KCBS competition brisket trim. I'll cryovac these. I trim my briskets. Ahead of time. So I usually do 6 briskets at a time. And then I cryovac them and put them in my freezer. And for that way on comp week, all I gotta do is go down to my freezer, pull out my brisket, I'm ready to go. So we'll put this guy in the freezer, and this will be ready to go for a contest down the road. And our next step will be cooking the comp. So we've got our trimmed Snake River Farms Gold Brisket. We are at the contest now, and so we are getting ready to do our prep. It's 3 o'clock in the afternoon on a Friday. That is when I do all of my prep, at least my brisket prep. So brisket starts at 3. Basically what we're gonna do now is we got our brisket out, we're getting ready, we're gonna inject it, we're gonna hit it with our rub, and then we're gonna put it back in the fridge until it's time to go on the pit at 3 o'clock in the morning. For those people that are asking how far ahead I do that, I'm 12 hours from when this is gonna go on the smoker. So we're gonna inject, rub, and we're ready to rock. All right, so we're gonna start out, we're gonna be injecting our brisket here, and you can kind of see we got it in a half pan. We've got our injection here. We got 16 ounces of water, and I use a Nestle Pure Life water. I get it at the grocery store, and I've got Cosmos products in here, some Reserve Blend. I got Moisture Magic, and I also use a beef broth, a beef base, Better Than Bouillon beef base that I get at the grocery store. Mix that with that 16 ounces of water, and I will make my beef broth on Wednesday nights and then mix my injections up on Thursdays. And what I do right before I inject is I give it a shake, and then I have a little mesh deal here, and I'm gonna run it through the strainer, otherwise it'll clog up my injector. And then we're just gonna make sure we get this completely strained, and the reason why we want to completely strain it is because of that right there. That will clog up the injector. We're gonna take our injector, we're gonna draw. All right, we got our injector. Now the grain goes this way on the brisket. I like to inject against the grain. So I'm gonna go like this, and I'm gonna bring my injector towards me, and I'm just giving it 1 squirt each, and then I'm just gonna make my way down the brisket. And the reason why I like to inject against the grain is so that when I inject here, I got injection going this direction, injection going this direction, instead of going with the grain like that. So that's why I do it like that. And I'm trying to keep this even as I go, giving an even distribution of this moisture. And then once I do that, I kind of wipe all this around the brisket. And then I'm going to come back and I'm going to go just a couple more shots across the middle, because most of my slices are going to come from here on. So I'm going to hit that. I'm going to just get a little stronger with that. Okay, once we do that, we're going to get our brisket out here and we're going to put it over on this cutting board. Kind of lay that out. I'm going to kind of drain this guy. And as you can see, I make way more brisket injection than I really need. But I'd rather have more. I'd rather have more than I need than not enough. All right, now we're going to do the rub process. The very first thing we do is I have a bottle of Worcestershire sauce. That's how you say it. This is my rub binder. I'm going to hit this brisket, rub this in. All right, first rub is my Fergalicious SPG. Or maybe by the time this video comes out, it'll be the buttery garlic. And with just a pretty decent coating of it, we're also going to do the sides. Then we're going to come in with some Smoking Guns Hot. Next rub is some Heavy Smoke Black. We do a pretty heavy dose of this. And then our last rub, our last topper, this is True Bud the General, and I run this through a spice grinder. And this guy, I'm just gonna do a little light on the top, just like that. Okay, so we've got our brisket off of the Myron Mixon G33 gravity feed. We were cooking at 275 degrees for 4 hours in the smoke, and we cook in this brisket caddy from my boy Charles from Wuss Revenge. So we had it in this caddy right here, and it got really nice and thick, as you can see that right there. So we're gonna take this out of the caddy, and we're gonna transfer it to our foil pan here. And the cool thing is this thing just kind of pops closed like that. All right, so now once we've got it in our foil pan, we're just going to take a can of Campbell's beef consommé, and we're going to pour this in here. I like to put a little bit on the edges. And we're going to dump that whole can in there. And then I'm just going to take a little splash of water and add it to it, just like that. And then we're going to take a little bit of our True Bud the General, and we're just going to kind of hit the edges here. Once we do that, now we're going to close this first layer up. This is the first layer, and we're going to do the sides like this. Because we don't want to lose any of this liquid. So we're going to close that up as far as we can get it. And then I'm always trying to turn the corners up so that we don't lose that liquid. And when we get right here, it's going to start to push out. So I'm just very careful because it is a lot of liquid. And then once I get that first layer shut, then I've got my second layers over here. And then I'm going to transfer this to my next sheet. And now we're going to shut layer number 2. And we're doing this the opposite direction so that we're keeping everything enclosed. So far we've had no leakage. It's good. And then our third layer, we're going to flip it one more time. Close that down. Transfer it back to our pan, and we are ready to go back on the smoker at 275 degrees for about another 2 hours until this thing is probing at about 207, 208, and then we're going to be ready to put it in the camera for the rest. So we're going to get this back on the smoker. All right, here's the smoke on the trails here in my hometown of Gardner, Kansas. Good luck, everybody. Cheers. Cheers. All right, it's 1:05 at the comp here. We are unwrapping our brisket. And what we're gonna do here is we're gonna get all this foil pulled apart, and we're gonna get the jus, and we're gonna pour it into our fat separator. All right, we got it in our fat separator right here. We're gonna go ahead and open this up. And you can see our brisket. We're gonna take our brisket out of here, put it on our cutting board. We're gonna cut the fat cap off the bottom. Just gonna clean this whole bottom side up. Because it's going to be less work on the very end. Once we clean that up, we're going to flip this guy back over. We're going to put him back in the pan, but we're going to put a little rack in there. And then we got our sauce. I wonder what's in it. I don't know. And then once we coat that sauce, we're just gonna put this back on the pit to set the sauce. All right, we got in this little muffin pan, we got a little bit of our brisket sauce. We got some MSG, and we got some of our Fergalicious SPG mixed in here. We're gonna take this jus that's in our fat separator. We're gonna put this bad boy in here. Get a brush, we're gonna mix that around. And then we're gonna put this back on the pit just to keep it hot until our sauce sets, and then we're gonna bring it back in. All right, we're slicing this brisket.
Yum, yum.
All right, once we got slices that we can choose from, start laying these out. All right, when we get our jus, mix this up. We're gonna start painting these. You just hear a sigh. That's like my seventh second place brisket call. Thank you, sir. Thank you.